everybody. In this video, I'm going to talk about how we can arrange the dashboard bench and accessories to do long rips on full sheets. Now, of course, you can do rips on shorter pieces, but in this configuration, I'm specifically talking about full sheet goods. Now, I've got the rail set up here, registering on track stars on each end of the table, which have been calibrated in a particular way. And I will be just cutting here, just off the edge of the table, and you can see the blade runs down between our accessories and the table and just cuts air other than the workpiece. So nothing to worry about there. So how do we set the stops? We have this item, which we call the rip gauge. Now, the rip gauge is very simple, like all our products. It has a plate and a tab. The tab represents the thickness of your saw blade. And since the three main sizes of saw blade are 1.8, 2.2, and 2.4 millimeters wide, we have 3 plates. You will choose yours during ordering. So the way this works is I'm going to move this plate on the extension to whatever dimension I want, and then I'm going to set it up against the rail, and then we'll move stops in place. So I have a dimension, let's say, in mine, let's say it's 23 and 5/16. So I've got the tape up against the tab, and if you come in here, you can see I'm just going to push that up there until that extension goes to 23 and 5/16, and then all I need to do is tighten the knob. So this is now set. And so if we want to cut material based on stops on the back of the table for wider pieces, I'm just going to lift the rail, slip this underneath. Now imagine that's my saw blade right here. So the dimension I want is at back here. So I've got this parallel guide. I'm going to pull it into contact with that, and then just tighten the knob here in the expand dog. Same thing with its partner here. So now we've got this stop set. I can push my full sheet against that, and I'll get 23 and 5/16 from the cut. I would, of course, set the other parallel guide to the same dimension using the same process. In this case, I've got it set to its maximum distance from the cut line. This is about a little over 27 inches. So that's a good start for cutting based on references on the back of the table. Now let's say we want to cut based on references off the front of the table. We can do that too on the right side of the blade. So let's say I want to reproduce this part in an 8-foot strip. Very simple. Because this tab represents the blade curve, all we need to do is set this up like so, push the piece against the tab and move the extension back flush with the edge here. And now we've got the outrigger. And we have the rip stop. Works like that. So as I said before, this represents your blade curve. So let's go up against the splinter guard. I'm just going to move the rip stop up in contact with that. So I've used a physical template now to set the stop. And I'm going to go down the other end and do the same thing. Now you might be familiar with parallel guides that I use all kinds of finicky methods to get them set up. Nothing finicky about this. I've got 2 stops set using one standard, so they will be the same. Now, of course, you do need to maintain your splinter guard in good condition because that's your reference. That's easy to do. So now I've got this piece in here. I can rip it all day long. Pieces will be just the same. Now, one quick thing to mention here as far as limitations. The limitations, look at this. I can rip very narrow pieces because this comes all the way up to 0. And depending on the thickness of my workpiece, the rail is going to be, set up a ways. We don't want to run into this with a saw because it could get in the way, but you just tip it down to match the thickness of your material. So the material touches it, the saw will never interfere with it. By the same token, at the other end of the table, let's say we want a little more capacity. So I've turned this rip stop around. So we get a little bit more because we can run it out the front of the outrigger a bit before tightening in place. So this maximum cut is about a little over 16 inches. And again, flip it down, it's out of the way. that's a great advantage of flipping these stops out of the way when they're not in use, because I can slide sheet goods on and slide sheet goods off without interfering with them. If I'm going from piece to piece, ripping multiple sheets, I just drop the stop, take out the pieces I've cut, put a new piece in, put the stop back up, then you get the same cut again. At the same time, in between cuts, let's just move this over here. If I want access to the table in some other way, like I'm going to need to remove the rail when I'm changing sheets, this just goes right on our what we call the rail hangers on the front of the Outriggers here. They fit in the slot on the rail, so I can just pop that in there, pop that in there, and the rail is held safely while I'm arranging things on the table. So those are the basics of how we set up to do long rips, and thanks for watching.